This video is sponsored by OBSbot. I think it's well established by now that in good lighting, pleasing lighting, you can get a good photograph with just about any camera. But what about tricky lighting? What about darkness, my old friend? So this is today's challenge. I'm going to pit the delightful 11-year-old EM5, dun dun dun, which is about 200 quid. It's about 200 quid used, with the ever delicious OM System OM1. This is about 10 times the price. You can get it from like 1,500 to 2,000 depending on how much you're willing to shop around. And the question is, between the two, will you be able to tell the difference? Is this 10 times the camera of this? Well, yeah it is, honestly. The OM1 can do well more than the EM5. It's like not even funny. But for the purposes of this challenge, is it 10 times the camera? Let's find out. So roll up, place your bets. Is it A or B? Which is the £200 camera and which is the £2,000 camera? Also, along the way, I will share some top tips with you on shooting in low light, because regardless of the camera you're using, there are some tried and true methods which can set you up for success. First tip, may be obvious, gonna say it anyway, fast lenses are your friend. Use the widest aperture lenses that you have in your kit. For this test, I'm going to put the same lens on both cameras in every shot so it's fair, and I'm going to go with the Lumix Leica 25mm f1.4. If and when the weather turns, I'm going to switch to my weather sealed 2.8 stock lenses. So what do you do when aperture is giving all she's got, Captain, and you're still not getting the results that you want? The next step down the chain for low light success is shutter speed. Now, of course, the easiest way to do this is get a tripod done, but I think a lot of us maybe get caught out in situations where we're not expecting to be shooting in low light, or just, if you're like me, you don't blooming like taking tripods. So the answer is handheld long exposures. The OM1 in this challenge knocks the socks off the EM5. Of course it does, it's more modern, it's a flagship camera. So you would be able to get really long handheld exposures with that kind of camera, but the good news is, when we're talking about low light around a city, for instance, where there are some available lights, you don't have to go mad with your shutter speed. Even like a fraction of a second longer will give you brilliant results and keep your ISO down. Even do these techniques with a non-stabilized camera if you use the right approach. Tip 1. Lean against something. Either lean the camera against something or lean yourself against something, and have as many points of contact between you and the camera as possible. And I mean having two hands on the camera, elbows into your body, something like that, something to keep it as stable as possible. Number 2, utilize your 2-second timer. This way, the process of pressing the shutter won't interfere with the handheld exposure. Number 3, hold your breath. It sounds stupid, but it blooming works. When you press the shutter, hold your breath and concentrate on staying as still as possible. Really does make a difference if you've got an older camera. And number 4, the often overlooked tip, wide angle lenses are hella forgiving when it comes to handheld long exposures. Don't be using like a 200mm lens, because that is not gonna work. Tip number 3, protect your highlights some of the time. What do I mean by that? Well, if we are shooting in city lights, it's ironic that you're in a dark scene, but you can still blow your highlights, so you've got to protect them. But if you're shooting with white lights, it's not always the end of the world if you do clip your highlights. Where it really does blooming matter is if the lighting is coloured, because if you clip that coloured lighting, it goes white, and we don't want that. So to make sure we don't clip our highlights, we need to either use our histogram and make sure that nothing is clipping on the right of the histogram, or just knock your exposure compensation down by like 0.3. That's what I tend to do because I'm a little bit lazy, but it blooming works. That way we know that our highlights are secured and we're getting as much light out of the scene into the camera without causing trouble. There were just too many peoples for me to match this composition, so the compositions are different, but the settings are more or less the same. Which one do you think is the more expensive camera? Hi Tiny! Oh, it's so cute. I just wanted to take a second to tell you about my new webcam. Now I know webcams can be boring, but this one blooming isn't. I'm recording on it right now and the quality is stupidly good. The OBSbot Tiny 2 comes in a beautiful case. It also has incredibly good autofocus, so if you wanted to use this for like content creation, you definitely could. Let me just walk over here. It even tracks you, so you can put your hand up to camera like this, and then bam, we're off. We're off. He's tracking me. What about over here? We're going over here. Now you can see more of my room than I ever intended you to see. If you wanted to make your video calls look awesome or live workshops, this is a brilliant solution for you. There's also a desktop mode, so you can just press desk mode, and then you can present things to the camera as you're talking about them. Or you could write some notes down, whatever, and then when you're done, you can just go back to normal. Super cool. It's got a really good minimum focus distance as well. The Tiny 2 has auto zoom and auto tracking. It'll follow you all the way around a room. There's hands-free voice control. You can say things like, "Hi Tiny." The app is really intuitive. There's lots of tracking modes and different modes like desktop or whiteboard mode. And then it's like, bam, track me again, Tiny. The magnetic base is really handy as well. You do have a connector so you can lean it onto your monitor like a standard webcam, but if you want to stick it in an unconventional place, the magnetic base really makes that convenient. They also have a Black Friday sale coming up, so check out the link in the description below and check out the Tiny 2. When is low light not low light? When there's a load of blooming light in the scene. This is a thing that I see all the time on YouTube and Instagram where people are like, this camera is amazing in low light, and then they're in blooming Tokyo with like 900 neon lights around them. An image can be perceived as low light just because it's in a dark nighttime setting, when in fact you have ample light from these artificial light sources that can make it not too much of a stress and strain on your camera. If you'd like to make your low light shots look clean and crisp and lovely, head towards the light and use it as much as possible. Either shoot the thing that is bright or shoot the light reflecting off the thing that is bright. This is a real low light shot, like where there is no available light, all the shadows are noisy and it's pants. So really use the light to your advantage, keep as much of it in as you can, and then your low light shots will look awesome. Tip number 5, if the ground is wet, and it's often wet in November in Liverpool, look for reflections. We have wet pavements, we have puddles, we have glass, we have all kinds of reflective surfaces which can make low light shots really cool. First, the reflective surfaces brings more light into the scene and helps you out with your low light exposures. And two, the reflections add dynamics, different textures, and just make it look super, super cool. So check out your reflections when you're shooting at night. How do you think the EM5 is holding up so far? Has it exceeded your expectations, or can you see in every single shot which is which? This is past Emily. I don't know how the tests are going. My theory is once I've edited them, they're going to look pretty identical. But then if you look at the raw image, you'd probably be able to tell. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you think it's holding up and whether this has like changed your perception on low light photography. Number 6, I need 2 hands now. If it is actually raining, which is also always a possibility in the UK, you need to be careful about your equipment. Obviously use weather sealed equipment. I mean, the EM5 original is weather sealed, but it is also over 10 years old, so I'll let you know at the end of this video if it actually survives. Another tip regarding the rain. Your shutter speed is very, very important in the rain. Let me explain why. If you're shooting at over like 200th of a second, the rain looks like speckles. Fine. Bit pants. If you're shooting 60th of a second, you get these long streaking bits of rain, kind of like that bit in the Matrix. Looks awesome. If you shoot longer than that, the rain more or less disappears. So you can either use this to your creative effect. You may want the rain to disappear, or you can use it to emphasize the energy that the rain gives your photo. So I like to shoot rain at around 1/60th or 1/50th of a second, depending on how heavy it's raining. Because I like the Matrix look. I'm a millennial. Of course I do. So, did the 10 times more expensive camera work 10 times better in low light? I just think it's a really interesting experiment to show you that it's often our techniques as photographers, how we compose, how we edit, that makes a camera look good or bad. Sometimes people get caught in the trap of having to buy the next best fit thing because they see on YouTube, oh my goodness, they were filming that in the middle of the night. It must be worth £3,000. And sometimes talented photographers and videographers are just using these techniques to sort of make things look like they're better in low light than they are. There you go, that's the tea. That is the blooming tea. Buy cheap cameras and go and have fun. It's a much better way to live. If you enjoyed this challenge video, check out my original challenge video. Oh, I touched my microphone. If you enjoyed this challenge video, check out my original challenge video where I choose this cheap compact camera and I use it to take some professional artwork, which is on my wall right the hell now. It's a good video actually. There's a lot of stress trying to get a good amount of image quality out of this, but yeah, it was really good fun. Check it out if you haven't seen it already.